It was just another quiet weeknight, the kind where you decide to run errands thinking the world is paused, waiting for you to catch up. I found myself wandering the aisles of the local Walmart, list in hand, mind adrift amidst mundane thoughts of what brand of cereal to buy. Nothing indicated it would be an evening that would etch itself into my memory, transforming an ordinary shopping trip into a harrowing tale. As I made my way to the fitness aisle, searching for resistance bands I doubted I'd use more than once, a fragment of a conversation floated towards me from the adjacent toy aisle. It was a man's voice, soft yet oddly insistent, accompanied by the high-pitched responses of a child. Normally, I wouldn't have paid any mind to such a scene, but something in the tone of the exchange made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Driven by a mix of curiosity and concern, I abandoned my quest for fitness gear and peeked around the corner. There, amidst the colorful chaos of toy cars and dolls, stood a man and a young girl. He was pointing at something on the top shelf, while she seemed half interested, half distracted. "Your mom won't mind, we'll just be a minute," he was saying. The girl nodded, but there was a hesitation in her movement that tugged at my instincts. "Everything okay here?" I found myself asking, stepping into the aisle. The man turned, a mask of friendly concern plastered over his features too quickly. "Oh, just watching her for a moment while her mom's in the restroom," he explained, his voice dripping with a rehearsed ease that sent a chill down my spine. I nodded, attempting to smile, yet the unease clung to me like a second skin. Something was off, but without any concrete evidence, I hesitated to act. Instead, I lingered under the pretense of browsing toys, keeping a watchful eye on the duo. Minutes later, the girl mentioned her mom again, and the man urged her towards the front of the store. That's when panic settled in my stomach, heavy and demanding attention. I followed them at a distance, scanning the faces of passing shoppers for any sign of distress that might match the situation unfolding before me. Then, like a beacon in the dark, a frantic woman's voice pierced the mundane sounds of shopping. "Has anyone seen a little girl, about this tall, wearing a pink jacket?" It was coming from a few aisles over. Without a second thought, I approached her. "I think I saw her. Come with me," I said, leading her towards the front of the store. As we neared the self-checkouts, the sight that greeted us was a gut punch of fear. The man was there, but the girl was nowhere in sight. The mother's scream, a raw echo of pure terror, filled the air. Security was alerted, and a tense search began. Moments turned to eternity until, from the corner of my eye, I saw a flash of pink outside the exit. Without thinking, I bolted, catching sight of the man trying to blend into the night with the girl in tow. I shouted for him to stop, my voice somehow commanding attention amidst the chaos. He hesitated, then released the girl's hand and attempted to flee just as security caught up to him. The girl, scared but unharmed, was safely back in her mother's arms within moments, her tears a testament to the fear she'd faced. As the police took the man into custody, I stood there, shaking, the adrenaline slowly ebbing away. The quiet night at Walmart had turned into a stark reminder of the lurking shadows in ordinary places. As I recounted the events to the officers, the reality of what could have happened had I not followed my instincts chilled me to the bone. In the end, the community's quick response and the store's security measures were praised. But as I finally made my way home, the weight of the night's events settled heavily on my shoulders. I realized then that sometimes being in the right place at the right time isn't about convenience. It's about being a guardian angel in disguise, even in the most unlikely of places. It was late, around 11 p.m., 4 years ago when I decided to make a quick run to Walmart. The store was nearly empty, save for a few late-night shoppers like myself. I remember feeling the eerie quiet of the store, punctuated by the occasional squeak of a shopping cart or the distant beep of a scanner. It was on this night, amidst the aisles of this Walmart, that I encountered someone who would haunt my memories for a long time. As I browsed through the home essentials aisle, I sensed someone approaching me. Turning around, I met the gaze of a man who seemed out of place. He was wearing a tattered coat, despite the warm weather, and his eyes held a peculiar intensity. "Can I help you find anything?" I offered, assuming he needed assistance. Instead, he offered to pay for my items, an offer that took me by surprise. His voice was soft but insistent, making me uncomfortable. I politely declined, attributing his behavior to perhaps misunderstood kindness. However, my discomfort grew as he followed me through the aisles, maintaining a distance but always in my line of sight. I quickened my pace, hoping to lose him in the maze of shelves. By the time I reached the checkout, I thought I had managed to shake him off. But as I paid for my items, I saw him again, lingering by the exit, watching me. The walk to my car was one of the longest of my life. I clutched my keys between my fingers, ready to defend myself if needed. Glancing back, I saw him standing outside the store, his figure barely illuminated by the dim parking lot lights. He did not follow me further, but the fear of what could have happened haunted me all the way home. I tried to brush off the incident as a random, unsettling encounter. But about a month later, I found myself back at Walmart, this time in the food section. As I reached for a box of cereal, a familiar sense of unease washed over me. Turning around, my heart sank. It was him, the same man, staring at me with that intense gaze. Panic set in, and without a second thought, I abandoned my cart and hurried out of the store. This second encounter was enough for me to decide to avoid that Walmart for some time. The coincidence was too much to bear, and the fear of what might happen if I encountered him again loomed large in my mind. To this day, I can't explain who he was or why he seemed so interested in me, but his presence that night and a month later has left an indelible mark on my memory, a chilling reminder of the vulnerability we all face in the most mundane of places. I've always prided myself on my cooking skills, which meant frequent trips to Walmart for fresh ingredients. The comfort of the routine, the familiarity of the aisles, and the friendly nods from employees were as much a part of my life as my morning coffee. Little did I know, this comfort would soon turn into a chilling episode that I'd never forget. It started innocuously enough. A new employee at Walmart began making small talk as I perused the vegetable aisle. Initially, it was a welcome change from the otherwise mundane shopping trips. He seemed friendly, knowledgeable about the products, and eager to help. However, as weeks went by, his questions slowly shifted from casual to uncomfortably personal. "What do you like to cook?" soon turned into, "Who do you cook for?" And then, "Do you live nearby?" Alarm bells didn't ring immediately. I'm an optimist at heart, always trying to see the good in people. But the day he asked for my number, in case I needed anything else, I felt a cold shiver down my spine. Declining politely, I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The real fear set in one evening when I noticed a car trailing behind me as I left the parking lot. It was subtle at first, but as I took random turns in an attempt to lose it, the realization dawned on me. The man from Walmart was following me home. Panic gripped me. I wasn't just scared. I was terrified. My mind raced with horror stories I'd read online, stories I never thought I'd find myself a part of. Driving faster, I took a convoluted route to shake him off, heart pounding against my chest. Felt like an eternity, but I eventually lost him. Rushing into my apartment, I locked the doors and watched from my window. The car circled a few times before driving off. That night, I barely slept, jumping at every sound. The next day, with trepidation and anger bubbling inside me, I reported the incident to the store manager. The look of confusion on his face turned my fear into horror. "He doesn't work here," he said after I described the man. My stomach dropped. All those weeks, he was posing as an employee, lurking around unsuspecting shoppers like me. I've not returned to that Walmart since, choosing to drive a few extra miles to another store. The experience left me shaken, distrustful of strangers, and acutely aware of my surroundings. The realization that he had crafted this facade to get close to me, to follow me, was chilling. The what-ifs haunted me for weeks. What if I hadn't noticed him following me? What if I had given him my number? This incident was a stark reminder that danger often comes cloaked in familiarity, and not everyone who smiles at you has good intentions. My once mundane trips to Walmart are now tinged with the memory of fear, a reminder of the day I was followed home by a man who wasn't what he appeared to be. It was a chilly night in 2014, well past midnight, when my hunger pangs hit me hard. Having just clocked out from a grueling late shift, the idea of heading straight to bed on an empty stomach was unbearable. With most places closed and my fridge offering little solace, the bright lights of the 24-hour Walmart beckoned me. The thought of roaming its almost deserted aisles for some snacks seemed oddly comforting at the time. Little did I know that decision would haunt me for nights to come. As I wandered the store, a sense of calm was quickly replaced by a prickling sensation at the back of my neck. I first spotted him in the frozen foods section. A man oddly out of place, with a vacant stare and clothes that seemed too heavy for the season. I chuckled to myself, thinking it was just another late-night shopper. But as I continued through the aisles, a sinking feeling set in. He was mirroring my every move, always a few paces behind. Trying to shake off the unease, I told myself it was coincidence, but his silent, eerie demeanor suggested otherwise. I quickened my pace, darting through the snack aisle, then doubling back, hoping to lose him. For a moment, I considered confronting him but decided against it, fearing it might escalate the situation. I sneaked a glance over my shoulder after weaving through the home goods section, and to my relief, he was gone. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding, thinking maybe I had overreacted. The store suddenly felt larger, emptier, and I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. With a basket now full of comfort foods, I made my way to the checkout, constantly scanning the store for the man. He was nowhere to be seen. Maybe he left, I thought, trying to convince myself. The checkout was a blur, my hands shaking slightly as I packed my bags. It wasn't until I stepped out into the cool, empty parking lot that I saw him again. This time, standing at the far end, his gaze locked on me. Panic set in as he began sprinting towards me with an intensity that froze me for a second. That second was all it took to snap back to reality, throw my bags into the car, and speed off as fast as I could. My heart was racing, pounding against my chest as if trying to escape. I didn't look back until I was safely out of the parking lot, and even then, I half expected him to be right behind me. The drive home was a blur of streetlights and silent prayers. Once home, I locked every door and window, the fear of him somehow finding me lingering until dawn. I vowed then never to visit Walmart, or any store for that matter, in the dead of night again. The incident left me with a deep-seated unease, a constant reminder to always be aware of my surroundings, no matter how safe they may seem. That night taught me a lesson in vigilance, one that I carry with me to this day. The comfort of familiar places can quickly turn sinister with the presence of just one unsettling element. While I never learned who he was or what his intentions might have been, the encounter is etched in my memory, a stark reminder that sometimes our gut feelings are the only warning signs we get. In sharing this story, I hope to instill a sense of caution in others, for sometimes the most ordinary places can become the backdrop for our deepest fears. It was just another night shift at Walmart, or so I thought, working the graveyard shift to stock shelves in the pet supplies aisle. The store was closed, the lights dimmed to save energy, casting long shadows between the aisles. It was around 11:30 p.m., and I was lost in my own world, earbuds in, listening to some music to pass the time. I remember glancing up as I lifted a bag of dog food, catching a glimpse of someone walking past the end of the aisle. I paused, pulling one earbud out, expecting to hear the footsteps of a coworker coming to grab something or make a joke about the late hour. But there was nothing, just silence. I shrugged it off, figuring they'd turned into another aisle before I could see who it was. As the night wore on, I couldn't shake off a growing sense of unease. The store, usually a place I felt comfortable, even bored, began to feel off. Then I saw him again. This time, there was no mistaking it. A man, not wearing a Walmart uniform, just casually strolling through an aisle, as if he was shopping in the middle of the night. My heart skipped a beat. Who the hell is that? I thought, my initial surprise turning into concern. It wasn't just that he was there, but the way he moved, too calm, too quiet. I quickly took out my other earbud and listened. The store was eerily silent, the usual hum of the freezers and the buzz of the fluorescent lights now sounding like the foreboding score of a horror movie. I debated what to do for a moment before deciding I needed backup. I found my coworker, Jake, who was restocking in the electronics section. "Jake," I hissed, trying not to make too much noise. "There's someone else in here. A guy. He's not staff." Jake's eyes widened, and he immediately followed me as we tried to find the intruder. We moved quietly, signaling each other to stop and listen at intervals. As we approached the pet supplies aisle again, the air felt colder, heavier. We saw no one. Suddenly, from the back room, there was a sound, a clatter, like something metallic falling to the floor. We exchanged a look of pure fear and made our way toward the sound. My heart was racing, each step feeling like a leap into the unknown. The back room was a maze of boxes and pallets, a perfect hiding spot for someone who didn't want to be found. And then we heard it, footsteps, not just random but deliberate, coming closer. Jake grabbed a heavy flashlight, holding it like a weapon. We were cornered, with our backs to the emergency exit. The steps stopped, and it was silent again. Then a shadow moved. It was him, the intruder, his face obscured by the darkness. Without thinking, I shouted, "Who are you? What do you want?" My voice echoed off the concrete walls, more shrill than I intended. The figure didn't respond, just stood there, then slowly, almost tauntingly, began to move toward us. Jake stepped forward, the flashlight raised, but the man turned, retreating toward the far end of the room, where a rarely used door led outside. We didn't pursue. Instead, we rushed to the main part of the store and called security, then the police. By the time they arrived, the intruder was gone, the back door standing ajar in the cool night air. The police said he must have been a burglar, looking for an easy target, but nothing appeared to be stolen. No one could explain how he got in or why he left without taking anything. After that night, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, and I never felt comfortable in the store again. I quit a few weeks later. Looking back, I wonder what would have happened if we hadn't found that open door, if the man had chosen not to retreat. The fear of that night stays with me,